Adil sat quietly at the back of the school library. His head was down, and a half-read book lay open in front of him. But he wasn't reading. His thoughts were somewhere else, somewhere far away, in another town, with someone he hadn't seen. In a long time, he thought about his older brother, Sami. They used to be close. Sami was not just his brother, he was his hero. They played video games together, shared snacks late at night, and talked about the future. Swami always protected him, made him laugh, and helped him with his homework. Being with Sami made everything easier, but things changed when Sami left for university. He moved to another city, hours away. At first, Adil was excited. He thought they would talk every day. He waited for calls and texts. He sent jokes, photos, and stories about school. And in the beginning, Sami replied with long messages and funny videos. But slowly, things got quiet. The replies came late. Some messages never got answers. Sami got busy with classes, new friends, and new responsibilities. And Adil was left behind, feeling smaller than before. Adil didn't blame him. He knew college life was hard, but he still missed him. He missed having someone who understood without asking. He missed the way Sami listened, even when Adil had nothing important to say. Now, every time he walked past Sami's old room, the silence felt louder. His brother's posters were still on the walls, the bed neatly made, but the life was missing. Adil would sit on the bed sometimes and wish he could go back in time just for a day. One evening, Adil found a small notebook in his drawer. It was the one Sami had given him on his last night at home. On the first page, Sami had written, "Write everything you feel, even if no one reads it. Words are like keys. They open locked hearts." Adil stared at the page for a while. Then, he picked up a pen and began to write. "Dear Sami, I miss you. I know you're busy, and that's okay. But some days feel hard without you. I wish you were here when I mess up my math. I wish you were here to laugh with me. Sometimes I send you messages and wait, even if I know you might not see them. I guess I just want you to know I still think about you. I still look up to you." He stopped writing and closed the notebook. He didn't know if he would ever send the letter, but writing it made his heart feel less heavy. It was like he had taken a deep breath after holding it in for too long. That weekend, his mother noticed he looked quiet. "Why don't you call Sami?" she asked. Adil shook his head. "He's busy. I don't want to bother him." She smiled gently. "Sometimes people need a reminder that they're missed. Sometimes all it takes is one small message to bring someone back." Later that night, Adil picked up his phone. He didn't type a long message. Just 5 simple words. "I miss you, big bro." He stared at the screen, his finger hovering over the send button. Then he pressed it. Seconds felt like hours. Then, his phone buzzed. "I miss you too, little man. I'm sorry. Let's talk this weekend, okay? Just you and me?" Adil's heart filled with warmth. He smiled, the kind of smile that starts deep inside and spreads slowly. The message was short, but it was enough. It was real. That weekend, they talked for almost an hour. Sami told him funny stories about college. Adil shared what had been going on at home. They laughed. They remembered. They felt close again. After the call, Adil went to the bookshelf and pulled out the old notebook. He opened to a new page and began to write again. But this time, it wasn't a letter of sadness. It was a list. Things I want to tell Sami next time. The first item. Thank you for replying. Sometimes distance makes people feel forgotten, but real love doesn't disappear. It just waits quietly, like a light in the corner of a dark room. And when you reach for it, even with one small word, it shines again. Adil didn't feel alone anymore. The distance was still there, but it didn't feel so far now, because hope had returned. It's not loud, but soft and strong. And that was enough. Asterisk Emma stood on the beach, her toes in the cold sand, watching the waves rise and fall. The sky above her was cloudy, but soft lights still touched the water. She had always loved coming here. It used to be their favorite place, hers and Chloe's. Chloe was more than just a friend. She was the kind of person who made everything brighter. They met during summer camp 3 years ago, and from the first day, they were inseparable. They danced in the rain, built sandcastles, collected seashells, promised they would always stay in touch no matter what. For 2 years, they kept that promise. They visited each other's houses, made long phone calls, and shared every part of their lives. Then last year, Chloe moved far away with her family. It wasn't just another city. It was across the country at first. They texted every day. But slowly the messages became shorter. Some days Chloe wouldn't reply at all. Emma tried to stay calm. She told herself it was just time zones or new school stress. But as the weeks passed, silence replaced the friendship they once shared. Emma felt like a part of her heart had moved away too. No one else really understood her the way Chloe did. She smiled around others, but it was never the same. Even when she stood on the beach, their beach, it felt different now. She missed Chloe's laugh, her weird jokes, her way of making the world feel safe. She missed the simple joy of being together. Emma wanted to reach out. Many times she opened her phone, typed a message, and deleted it. She didn't know what to say. "I miss you" felt too small. "Why don't you talk to me anymore?" felt too heavy, so she stayed quiet. But her heart was loud with longing. That afternoon, as she walked along the shoreline, she noticed something shiny in the sand. It was a small, broken shell, just like the ones they used to collect together. She picked it up and held it tightly. An idea came to her. Not a perfect idea, but a simple one. That evening, Emma went home and found the old scrapbook they made. It was full of beach photos, little drawings, and Chloe's colorful writing. She smiled at each page, tears filling her eyes. She took out a blank page and began to write. "Dear Chloe, I don't know if this letter will reach you or if you'll even have time to read it, but I miss you. I miss our friendship. One miss. Laughing until we cried and running on the sand until we were out of breath. I don't want to forget those days. I don't want to forget you. Maybe we're just in different worlds now, but I want you to know you still matter to me." She carefully placed the broken shell inside the envelope with the letter. It was a tiny piece of the beach, a small part of their story. Then she wrote Chloe's address on the front and dropped it in the mailbox the next morning. Days passed, then a week, then 2. Emma waited quietly, trying not to expect too much. But something inside her felt lighter. Writing the letter had helped her breathe again. Then one sunny afternoon, when she returned from school, her mother handed her an envelope. It had Chloe's handwriting on it. Emma's hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a note and a photo. In the photo, Chloe was holding their scrapbook, smiling wide. The note was short but full of heart. "Emma, thank you. I didn't know how much I needed your letter until I got it. I'm sorry for the silence. Life got confusing, and I didn't know how to explain everything. But I never stopped thinking about you. You were never just a summer friend. You're still my person. I want to start again, if you'll let me." Emma laughed through her tears. The beach felt warm in her memory again. The distance between them didn't feel so big now. She sat down at her desk, picked up her pen, and started a reply. Sometimes people drift apart. Time change, and fear build walls. But words can break those walls. So can love. So can hope. Hope is quiet. It doesn't always come when you expect it. But when you listen closely, it's always there. Whispering. Try again. Emma had tried. She had sent her heart through a letter and a shell. And her friend had found it. They were still far apart in miles, but close again in the ways that mattered. Zion stood by the old train station, his hands deep in his coat pockets. The air was cool, and the wind brushed softly against his face. He watched the empty tracks, remembering the last time he saw his grandfather wave goodbye from that very spot. It had been for months since Nana moved to live with Zion's uncle in another city. His health needed more care, and the doctor said it would be better for him. Everyone agreed it was the right thing. But Zion never agreed with how. It felt he and Nana were closer than anyone else in his life. They spent long afternoons together, sipping tea, fixing small things around the house, or just talking about the stars. Nana had a way of making everything feel calm, like no matter what happened in the world, things would be okay. Zed missed That feeling, he missed the stories. He missed the way Nana would gently pat his shoulder when he looked tired. Most of all, he missed being understood. At first, they talked on the phone every week. But lately, Nana's voice had grown weaker. Sometimes he was too tired to talk. Sometimes Zion was too busy with school. The calls became less often and shorter. Now, days would pass with no message, and Zion felt the distance growing. He sat on a bench near the station, watching people walk past. No one seemed to notice him. He felt like he was disappearing too, piece by piece. He wanted to call Nana, but he didn't know what to say. Would Nana even hear him clearly? Would he remember everything? Zion stared at his phone, then placed it back in his pocket. The silence between them scared him, not because he was angry, but because he cared so much. That's what made it hurt. He took out his small sketchbook from his bag. He used to draw with Nana. Funny faces, birds, trees, stars, whatever came to mind. He turned to a blank page and slowly began to draw a picture of the train station. Just as it looked now. Then, in the corner, he drew a small boy waving to an old man on the train. When he finished, he wrote a few words underneath. "I still come here. I still remember." He tore out the page and held it gently. He didn't know if he should send it. He didn't even know if Nana would see it clearly. But maybe it was worth trying. Maybe trying was the most human thing he could do. That evening, he went to the post office and mailed the drawing with a short letter. It didn't have many words, just a simple message. "Nana, I miss you. Hope you're okay. I wish I could sit with you again and listen to your stories. Love, Zion." A week passed, then another. Each day, Zion checked the mail, hoping for a reply. None came. He tried not to feel too sad, but sometimes he would look up at the sky and ask silently, "Are you thinking of me, Nana?" Then one evening, just as he was leaving for school, his mother handed him a small envelope. "This came today," she said softly. Zion opened it carefully. The handwriting was shaky, but he recognized it. "My dear Zion, I received your letter and your drawing. I keep it beside my bed now. I look at it every morning. I don't speak much these days, but I want you to know I think of you every way. Night, I tell your stories to the nurses. I tell them about your funny drawings and how smart you are. Don't be sad. I feel your love, even from far away, and that gives me strength." Zion felt a lump in his throat. His eyes filled with tears, but he didn't cry. He smiled. His message had reached him. His love had not been lost. Even though they were apart, something deep and true still connected them. That night, he sat by his window and looked at the stars. He whispered, "Thank you, Nana, for remembering, for holding on." Hope does not always come loudly. Sometimes it arrives in a shaky letter, sometimes in a quiet drawing. But when it comes, it fills the heart like warm light in a dark room. Zion began to draw again every day, not just for fun, but to stay close. He made a plan to send a drawing every week. It didn't matter if Nana could always read the words. The picture spoke for him, and that was enough. Love doesn't fade with distance. It grows stronger when you choose to carry it forward. Zion had learned that now. He was still sad sometimes, but he wasn't lost. He had found a way to keep his heart connected, even across miles, true to the same HFY humanity, faith, you theme. The story is written in simple English, in third person, with no headings or special characters. And it expresses emotion, sadness, and quiet hope. Sarah sat on the old school steps, holding her lunchbox in her hands. Around her, students laughed, played games, and talked loudly. But inside her heart, everything was quiet. She looked at the empty spot beside her. That was where Lila used to sit. Lila had been her best friend since the second grade. They did everything together: homework, games, art projects, and lunch breaks. They even had a secret handshake in a box where they kept tiny letters for each other. That friendship had been the brightest part of Sarah's life. But 2 months ago, Lila moved to another country. Her father got a job in a faraway place, and just like that, Lila was gone. They promised to stay in touch, to message and talk every weekend. At first they did. Sarah would wait for her calls. They would talk about new things and laugh like before. But slowly the messages stopped coming. One weekend turned into 2, then 3. Sarah began checking her phone every morning, hoping for a hello or a smiley face. But the screen stayed quiet. She told herself that Lila was just busy. Maybe the time zones were confusing. Maybe school in a new country was hard. But deep down, Sarah worried. What if Lila had already made new friends? What if she had forgotten about her? Sarah didn't talk about it with anyone. When her parents asked if she missed Lila, she nodded and changed the subject. She didn't want to sound weak. But inside, she felt like a small boat drifting alone in a big sea at night. She stared at the stars through her bedroom window. "You still think of me?" she whispered to the sky. "Do you miss me too?" One day after school, Sarah found the tiny letter box in her closet. It still had notes from Lila inside, funny jokes, little drawings, and a message that said, "You'll always be my favorite person." Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she read them. The letters were small, but the feelings inside them were big, and they reminded her of something important. What they had was real. Maybe it was quiet now, but that didn't mean it was gone. She took a deep breath and pulled out a clean piece of paper. She didn't open a phone app. She didn't wait for a reply. She just wrote, "Dear Lila, I don't know why we stopped talking. Maybe life got too busy, but I still think of you every day. I miss our talks and our jokes and our silly dreams. I miss my best friend. I'm writing this not because I expect a reply, but because I want you to know I still care. I still hope we find our way back." She folded the letter and placed it in an envelope. She added a little drawing of their secret handshake and a tiny heart. Then she asked her mom to help her send it by mail. Days passed, then a week, then 2. Message came, but Sarah didn't feel as sad anymore. She had tried. She had spoken her heart, and that felt like a small light in her chest. Then one morning, just before school, Sarah's mom walked into her room, holding a small envelope. "This came for you," she said with a smile. Sarah opened it slowly. Her hand shook as she saw the colorful paper inside was from Lila. The letter was full of words and doodles. Lila had written about her new school, the strange food, the kids in her class. And then she wrote something that made Sarah's heart leap. "I thought you might be mad at me. I didn't know how to start again. But I missed you every single day. I still keep your photos beside my bed. I still laugh at our old jokes. I'm sorry for the quiet, but I'm here. And I still want to be your favorite person." Sarah laughed and cried at the same time. The stars had listened. Her letter had traveled across the world and brought her friend back. Later that evening, Sarah sat by her window again. The stars were shining above, just like always. She whispered, "Thank you for not forgetting me." Sometimes distance makes hearts quiet. Sometimes people grow afraid to speak, but hope stays alive in small ways: a letter, a drawing, a memory. And when you believe in that hope, it often finds a way back. Sarah began writing to Lila every week, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Their letters became longer, brighter, full of old memories and new dreams, and in the quiet space between them, something beautiful had returned. Their friendship, their laughter, their light. Headings or special characters. It continues the emotional HFY humanity, faith, you theme, focusing on sadness, distance, 8, and quiet hope. The wind moved gently through the trees as Max walked alone down the sidewalk. His hands were deep in his pockets and his eyes were on the ground. He passed by the small corner shop where he and his cousin Leo used to buy ice pops every summer. Now the shop looked empty, and so did Max's heart. Leo had moved away 6 months ago. They grew up like brothers, always together. They played games, built things, and shared every secret. Leo understood Max in a way no one else did. Most now. Leo lived far away in another city, and nothing felt the same. At first they called each other often. Max waited every evening for Leo's voice. But over time, the calls became shorter. Then they stopped. Max didn't know why. Maybe Leo was too busy. Maybe he had new friends. Max didn't want to be forgotten, but that's exactly how he felt. He missed the little things, the jokes only they understood. The way Leo always knew when Max was sad, even without asking. Now, Max felt like he was walking through life alone. At school, he smiled, but inside he felt empty. He didn't talk much to others. He just waited, hoping for something that never came. One night, Max sat in his room looking at the photo on his desk. It was from their last day together. Both of them had big grins and ice cream on their shirts. Max traced the edge of the photo. With his finger? "Do you even remember this, Leo?" he whispered. He wanted to reach out to say, "I miss you." But the words felt heavy. What if Leo had forgotten him? What if Max's message was just another one left unread? Still, deep inside, something told Max not to give up. A small voice whispered, "Try." Maybe that was what it meant to be human, to keep hoping even when it hurt. Max opened his drawer and pulled out a small notebook. He flipped to a blank page and began to write. He didn't try to make it perfect. He just wrote what he felt. "Hi, Leo. I don't know if you miss me, but I miss you a lot. I keep walking past our old places and it's hard. I don't want to forget, but it hurts to remember. Hope you're okay. I hope you still laugh the way you used to. I don't know how to say this, but I still care. Your cousin Max." He folded the note and placed it in an envelope. Then he stopped. He didn't have Leo's new address. Sighed and left the letter on his desk. But even writing it helped. It made the pain feel a little softer. The next day, Max went to the park, where they used to build kites. He sat on a bench and watched the sky. Children ran around laughing. Somewhere above, a red kite danced in the wind. Max smiled, just a little. He closed his eyes and thought about Leo's laugh. When he went home, something strange happened. His mom handed him a letter. "This came for you," she said. Max opened it slowly. His heart beat faster as he saw Leo's handwriting. The letter was short, but every word mattered. "Hey Max, I've been thinking about you a lot. I wanted to write, but I didn't know if you were mad. I miss everything. The park, the games, the talks. It's been hard here. I've been quiet. But not because I forgot you. I just didn't know how to start again. Let's talk soon. I need my cousin back." Tears filled Max's eyes. He held the letter close and smiled. He wasn't alone. Leo still cared. They had both been afraid, both unsure, but their bond had not broken. It had just been waiting. That night, Max sat by the window and looked at the stars. They seemed brighter than usual. He thought of Leo and felt warmth in his chest. Maybe. They couldn't see each other every day. Maybe things had changed, but hope was still there. And so was love. Max picked up his notebook again and began to write a new letter. Not full of sadness, but full of light.
8.
He told Leo about everything he wanted to share. He added a small drawing of their old kites. And at the bottom he wrote, "I never stopped caring." Hope is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, sitting in a letter, waiting to be opened. And when you find it, it reminds you that love doesn't disappear with distance. It only grows stronger when you keep it alive. Max felt different now. Not because everything was perfect, but because he knew he wasn't forgotten. He was still part of someone's story. That was enough to keep going. Aisha sat by the window, her head resting against the cool glass. It was raining again. The drops fell softly one after another, like a quiet song. She watched people pass by, holding umbrellas and rushing to get home. But for her, the house didn't feel like home anymore. Her sister Hannah had moved away 2 months ago. It wasn't far, just another city. But for Aisha, it felt like another world. They used to share everything: their room, their clothes, their thoughts. Every night, they would lie in bed and whisper until they fell asleep. But now the bed next to hers was empty. The room felt too quiet, too big. At first, they talked often. Video calls, texts, voice messages. Aisha would send silly photos and wait for Hannah's laughing reply. But slowly, the messages stopped. The silence between them grew, and Aisha didn't know why. Maybe Hannah was busy. Maybe she had new friends, a new life. Aisha tried not to think about it, but the thoughts came anyway. She didn't want to be forgotten, but she was afraid she already was. Every day after school, she walked past the park where they used to sit and eat snacks. The swing still moved in the wind and the bench still stood under the old tree. But now she sat alone. The wind felt colder and the sky looked dull. She tried to be strong. She helped her parents, finished her homework, and smiled when people spoke to her. But inside she missed her sister deeply. She wanted to talk to Hannah. Again, to laugh, to feel close. But she didn't know how. What would she even say? I miss you. Would that be enough? One night, Aisha sat on her bed with a notebook in her lap. She flipped through the pages, past old drawings and poems. Then she found a list they had made together. Things we want to do, it said at the top. The first thing was, build a robot that makes pancakes. Aisha smiled. They never built it, but the dream had felt real when they talked about it. She looked at the list for a long time. Then she turned to a new page and began to write. Dear Hannah, I don't know if you're thinking of me, but I think about you. Every day. I miss our late-night talks, our silly games, and your weird dance moves. I don't know why we stopped talking. Okay, maybe life just got in the way. But I want you to know I still care. I'm still here. She stopped writing, unsure if she would ever send the letter. But it felt good to write it, like a piece of her heart had been shared, even if only on paper. The next morning, Aisha woke up to a message on her phone. It was from Hannah. Hey, I was thinking about you. I found our old list. Remember the robot idea? We were so weird. I miss you a lot. I'm sorry I haven't called. Things got crazy here, but I want to talk soon. Aisha blinked. She read the message again and again. It felt like a warm light had entered the room. Her heart beat faster, and a smile grew on her face. Hannah hadn't forgotten. She still cared. Later that day, they had a video call. It wasn't perfect. There were pauses and a few awkward moments. But they laughed. They shared stories. They even talked about building the robot again, just for fun. After the call, Aisha went outside and looked up at the sky. Clouds had parted, and the sun was shining through. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply. The air smelled fresh, like something new was beginning. Hope is quiet sometimes. It doesn't always shout or sing. Sometimes it just waits. It waits in a message, in a memory, in a quiet notebook full of dreams. When it's ready, it returns like sunlight after rain. Aisha knew things had changed. It wouldn't be in the same room anymore. They wouldn't fall asleep whispering side by side, but they still had their bond. It was different now, but still strong. It just needed a little care, a little faith, and a little reaching out. She picked up the list again and added a new line at the bottom. Send pancake robot idea to Hannah. Then she laughed softly. Her heart felt lighter, like she could breathe. Again, distance can make people feel far. But it can't erase love, can't take away the memories, the laughter, or the dreams. And if you're brave enough to hope, even just a little, that love can find its way back. Aisha believed that. Now, she had found her sister again. And maybe in that simple act of writing and waiting, she had also found herself. Lena sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the glowing stars on her ceiling. The room was quiet, only filled with the hum of the old fan turning slowly above her. Her phone lay beside her, silent, with no new messages. It had been 3 months since Mia moved away. 3 long months without laughter, shared secrets, or walks in the park that felt like home. Lena and Mia were best friends. They did everything together, from building pillow forts to watching old space movies. They shared more than just hobbies. They shared a bond that felt stronger than gravity. But things changed quickly. Mia's family had to move to another city because of her father's new job. On their last day together, they didn't cry. They promised to stay strong. They said they would call and text every day. At first they did. But slowly, the messages became fewer. The calls became shorter. Now, there was only silence. Lena tried to stay busy. She joined a school club, helped her mom in the garden, and even started learning how to play the guitar. But nothing filled the empty space in her heart. Her world felt dimmer without Mia in it. Every street corner reminded her of their old adventures. The ice cream shop where they shared jokes. The library where they whispered between the shelves. Even the old tree in her backyard where they carved their names stood like a quiet reminder of what once was. One evening, Lena walked to the tree and sat beneath it. The sky above was clear, filled with stars. She looked up and whispered, "R. You looking at the same sky, Mia?" She remembered something Mia once said. "No matter how far apart we are, the stars will always connect us." That memory made her smile a little, but it also brought tears to her eyes. She missed Mia deeply. She wanted to send a message, call, or write something, but she didn't know how. What if Mia had moved on? What if she didn't feel the same? Lena felt stuck between fear and hope. She was afraid of reaching out and being ignored. But she also hoped that maybe, just maybe, Mia was thinking about her too. It was hard being human sometimes, Lena thought. To care so deeply and still feel lost. But that's also what made her strong. She still cared. She still wanted to try. That night, she opened her notebook and began writing. Not a text, not a letter, just her feelings. She wrote about the time they built a rocket out of cardboard. Boxes. About how Mia always laughed with her whole heart. About how lonely the days felt now. How she missed being understood without words. She didn't know what she would do with those pages. But writing made her feel lighter, like the weight in her chest had found a way out. The next day, she took a walk to the post office. Her fingers held the envelope tightly. Her heart beat faster with every step. He had written a real letter to Mia, not just words, but pieces of her heart. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was human. She dropped the letter into the mailbox and took a deep breath. She didn't know what would happen next. Maybe Mia would reply. Maybe she wouldn't, but Lena felt proud. She had taken a step. She had shown hope. A few days passed, then a week, then another. Every day after school, Lena checked the mailbox. Empty. Still, she didn't give up. She kept writing in her notebook, not just to Mia, but to herself. Letters of hope. Letters of strength. Then one afternoon, just as the sky turned orange with sunset, a letter arrived. Her name was written in Mia's neat handwriting. Lena stood still, her hands shaking as she opened it. Inside, the letter was full of memories, smiles, and even drawings. Mia missed her too. She said she didn't know how to reach out either. She was scared. But she had never stopped thinking about Lena. Lena cried when she read those words. It's not out of sadness but relief. She wasn't alone. Her hope had found a way. They were still connected, just like the stars above. Sometimes humans feel lost. Sometimes they are afraid to speak. But there is always a light inside them, a small voice that says, "Don't give up." And when they listen to that voice, even in the darkest moments, they find each other again. Lena smiled and looked up at the sky. "Thank you," she whispered, "for showing me that it's okay to try." Mia sat at her new desk, staring at the screen of her tablet. The room was quiet, except for the ticking clock on the wall. Her new house was bigger, newer, and cleaner than the one she left behind. But it didn't feel like home. The walls felt cold. The hallways echoed. The faces at school were unfamiliar. Everything felt strange. And every night, when she closed her eyes, she saw Lena smile. Mia had moved away because her father got a better job. Her parents said it was a fresh start, a new chapter. But for Mia, it felt like the best parts of her story had already ended. Her best friend Lena was now miles away. At first, they messaged every day, shared pictures, talked about silly things. But then, school got busy. Her new life got louder. The messages slowly stopped. Still, every night, Mia scrolled through. Their old chats, the photos, the jokes, the memories. She would laugh sometimes, but mostly she just felt a quiet ache in her chest. It was the feeling of missing someone deeply, but not knowing what to say anymore. She wanted to reach out. She wanted to say, "I miss you," But what if Lena didn't feel the same? What if too much time had passed? Mia tried to forget. Joined the art club at school, painted bright colors on canvas. But the blues were always deeper than the reds. Her drawings were full of stars, trees, and rockets, things she used to dream about with Lena. Even her art missed her old life. One morning, Mia walked to the mailbox outside her house. It was a normal day until she saw an envelope with her name written in soft, familiar handwriting. She opened it with shaking hands. It was a letter from Lena. As she read each word, her eyes filled with tears. It was everything she needed to hear. Lena missed her too. She remembered the same memories. She also felt sad and quiet and afraid. But she had still written the letter. She had reached out. Mia held the letter to her chest and smiled through her tears. She wasn't alone. Her friends still cared. That night she wrote back. She didn't worry about saying the perfect things. She just wrote with her heart. She drew tiny stars in the corners and told Lena about her new school, her quiet days, and how often she looked at the sky wondering if Lena was doing the same. The letter helped her breathe better. It gave her hope. She had been so afraid to try, but now she knew it was okay to be scared. It was human. What mattered was trying. Days passed. Then another letter came. Then another. Soon they were writing every week, sharing stories, sketches, and dreams. It wasn't the same as before, but it was real. It was honest. It was full of care. One weekend, Mia took her bike and rode to the park near her house. She sat on a bench and watched the sky. A group of children were playing with paper airplanes. She remembered when she and Lena did the same. They had written their dreams on the wings and sent them into the sky. One day, we'll build a real spaceship, Lena had said. Mia smiled at the memory. Even now, that dream still lived in her heart. She didn't need to forget the past. She just needed to carry it with her as she moved forward. Later that night, she sat down and opened a fresh notebook. On the first page, she wrote, "Dear Lena, I want to tell you something I've never said before." She didn't stop writing for an hour. It wasn't just about missing someone anymore. It was about understanding how strong people can be when they don't give up. It was about love, distance, and hope. And it was about being human enough to care, even when it's hard. When she finished, she looked out the window. The stars were shining, bright and calm, she whispered. "Thank you for not forgetting me." Hope is a quiet thing. It doesn't shout, it waits, it listens. And when you choose to believe in it, even when things feel dark, it lights up your path. Mia had almost forgotten that. But now, she remembered. Sometimes people drift apart. Sometimes they grow quiet. But the heart always remembers. And when you decide to try, to write, to speak, or even just to hope, you create a bridge back to the ones who matter. Mia folded the letter, placed it in an envelope, and smiled. She wasn't lost anymore. She was finding her way, one word at a time.